Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why it's not a bad thing to FOMO people into buying your product or service as long as it's legitimate. It's not a bad thing. And I say this as a person whose weakness is I really can't FOMO people. Like FOMOing people is really really hard for me because one, I don't need money. So if you tell me, "Hey, like give me a week or two or a month or two," I'd be like, "Whatever." And then I don't FOMO you. I just like, "Well, yeah, you do whatever you want." Right? That's reason number 1 because I don't need the money. Number 2, I have a very laid back personality, and one of my weaknesses is that I want you to want it more than I do, right? Like that's just how I think, and that's why I feel like I kind of miss out on opportunities nowadays because uh I always like to just think, yeah, if I'm interact with anybody, I want them to want it more than I do, right? And that's why I never really FOMO people. Now, as a person who doesn't do what I'm trying to like talk about as important, I really need to start FOMOing other people in life, right? Because especially in 2025, we live in a society where people just delay life and don't do anything, right? Oh, I'll look into it 1 or 2 months later, and then that 1 or 2 months later becomes 8 years later. And I say this because I talk to people and they always say, "What the F did I do with my life?" And the sad truth is most people just do nothing, nothing delay. And I remember that I talked to a nurse, and there's a nurse I'm working with. I talked to her, and several times she didn't just say this once. She said this several times, like, "What have I been doing with my life?" And she makes good money. But you all know the story about velocity banking is that yeah, the banks kind of love people who make good money so that they could leech it off of you um, with debt, right? Because they don't lend money to people who need it. But she said this to me several times, like, "What have I been doing with my life?" And I was like, "Whoa!" The way that I took it is like, you know, because she's at the end of her career and almost nearing retirement. I was thinking like it's so crazy that if I were a young kid, let's say, 10 to 17, this person literally would have just been my teacher, right? Like my teacher's age. And now that like I'm a little bit older, it's like now I got to teach this generation. I don't want to say how to do things right, but I can't think of any other phrase, but how the right way, or I don't even say the right way, maybe a better way. Okay. And why is it that I learned all these concepts, back in the day, whereas everybody else just did not? And that's because I was FOMO'd into it, right? Um, so in 2017, I was so desperate, okay? I was making about 20 grand a year, and I was like, "I gotta do something to get out of this because this sucks for me," right? And every single person was telling me what a giant idiot I am. So if you come up to me and tell me I'm a giant idiot, I'm like, "Well, what's new?" Right? So back in 2017, my parents were telling me, "Come back to California, you're an idiot." Okay? And remember, 2017 was when it was uncool to leave California. It was only cool to leave California back in 2019, 2020, starting from that time, okay? And so, back in that time, I was like, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna figure out a way to do it. And I was really feeling hopeless. It's like, I don't even know what I'm doing. What am I doing? And if I had made a good salary like the nurse, like over $100,000 a year, I don't think there's no way that I would have learned like velocity banking or real estate investing or any of that. Right. And so what eventually happened is I was just desperate, searching for solutions. And then I came across this program. If you want to know more about it, click the Google form link below. That was talking about financial literacy, real estate investing, velocity banking. And I remember when I went to my first velocity banking intro, I was like disappointed because I was like, all right, pay off your mortgage. I think the way that was presented, like 7 to 10 years or something like that. And I was like, well, this makes no sense because I'm making 20 grand a year and I'm never gonna buy a home. Right. But the way that I kind of thought about it is like, well, if I don't buy it now, let's say down the road I'm able to do this. Um, then I'll be able to pay off my property really quickly. So it's better to buy now. And I also essentially just FOMO'd myself into buying. I'm gonna be honest. And I think a lot of it was one part of it was just pure desperation, like, I need something to kind of, learn and to kind of fall back on, and, another part was just, I think I can do this even though there was no reason for me to actually believe that, and so did somebody really FOMO me into buying? Not necessarily, okay? I FOMO'd myself just because I was incredibly desperate. And so, as you can see here, right, you see this image right here. I bought it in 2017, 11/3/2017. And when I first learned about real estate investing, and don't get me wrong, not every program is legit. Okay. I actually went through several programs that I probably shouldn't have put on a credit card, but the reason I like this program the most is because it's lifetime access, or at least back then it was for the first package, and then there's a second package that for sure is still lifetime access now, right? And so all I did was just study velocity banking, real estate investing. I remember sending my first letters. It's like, wait a minute, you want me to look at your property? I don't even have any money. Obviously, I didn't tell him that. But then I'd just go in and I'd pretend like I knew what I was doing. And then eventually, just kind of studying over and over again. And because that $2,000 that I made, or I'm sorry, I spent, and I put on a credit card because obviously I didn't have $2,000 saved up in 2017, essentially created a foundation, right? And why did I buy it? It's because I essentially just got FOMO'd. I got FOMO'd into buying because I was incredibly desperate. Now, like I said before, if I had like a nurse's salary, there's no way I would have ever bought. There is no way. And that's why it's actually not a bad thing as long as your product or service is legitimate to FOMO people into buying, especially if there's a pain point. Think about it. A person who makes $20,000 a year and is given classes to study, if that $2,000 is a big chunk of their income, they're going to study that all day, every day, right? That's why even though there's no way at that time I could have got a line of credit, I just kept studying over and over again. I just kept doing it, and I essentially built a foundation, which is why I have over $575,000 in lines of credit right now, right? Ton of people who make over $100,000 who don't know what they're doing, who don't know what they're doing. Okay, there are doctors out there, and I heard this statistic somewhere that doctors in general are the people who get ripped off the most by like shady investment advisors, right? I need to find a source for that, but again, it's really hard to get ripped off if you have a good foundation, educational foundation of financial literacy. It really is. And what the sad part is just for me, is that sometimes I really wish I needed the money when I sell a product or service because then I can have more motivation to FOMO you and you actually get, if you're, especially if you're at a point of pain right now, you get your butt in the door and you start studying, right? But most people just kind of delay life. And because ironically, I don't need your money, I just let it chill. I'm like, yeah, 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 1 or 2 months later, whatever. And then 1 or 2 months later turns to 8 years later. And then you would have been like, man, I really wish I'd learned velocity banking like in 20, a long time ago. And the ironic thing is, if I try to sell you that program in 2017, you'd be like, oh man, that's a scam, right? Because I was thinking the same thing too. Which is totally ironic, right? So, it's funny because like, I still bought the program even though I thought it was like, "Could this be a scam?" And I still bought the program, and even after I bought the program, it's like, "Shoot, I'm not getting immediately results. I'm this sucks." And then because it was such a huge chunk of my income, I just started studying over and over again. That's all I did, right? In fact, I actually feel like when you study this stuff and you don't have money, it's actually even better because people who have a lot of money and don't have any training are almost like lottery winners, right? Like the money just, money is a tool, right? So if you're trained into using the tool, then you'll be able to make it, grow more money. But then a lot of people, if they just have a lot of money and they're not given a foundation, they just end up losing it, right? So that's unfortunate. Now, again, the reason I'm making this video is because I probably need to learn how to FOMO you all better. I really do. Now I know this because there are several people, actually pretty much 100% of the men that I've talked to who told me that, "Hey, I wanna buy from you," and then I never FOMO'd them, and none of them bought from me. In fact, 100% of the people who have bought from me have been women. Have been women. Now, I'm not talking about the 99 cent YouTube membership. There's some in that. But when it comes to educational packages, it's been 100% women. No man has bought from me so far, right? And I'm wondering it's because it's because if I refuse to FOMO, which I probably need to get better at. And I'll tell you what, if I start FOMOing you, it probably means one or two things that I've actively trained myself to do it, or number two, I need money, right? And that's the ironic thing that I almost can't help you get to where you need if I don't need the money. So it's not a bad thing that someone who's trying to sell you something and they need the money, right? People think like they do this thing where it's like, hey man, tell me what makes you better than your competition. You tell that to someone who doesn't need your money, they'll laugh you out the door, right? And then, you probably, if you do that, and this is why I talk about you need to be a good customer because a good customers are able to acquire resources that they normally wouldn't be able to provide themselves. But if you do that, you probably miss out on some opportunities from someone who need the money and could have gotten you something that you would have been able to get yourself, right? It's not a bad thing. People need money. People are more hungry when they need money, right? Like when I learned velocity banking in 2017, I was very hungry. I was like, I need money or I need to, get to the next level. And that's why I bought these educational packages. It's not because I was doing so well, right? But then some of you are like, "Well, I wish I learned this in back in the day." Okay, well, let me try to sell it to you now. So you're like, "Oh, no, I can't do that. That could be a scam." Like, what the like, all right, well, y'all do what it is that you need to do then, right? Because again, I don't need your money, and that's the sad part. So again, point of the video, point of the story is it's not a bad thing to FOMO people, even though people will act like it is, as long as your product is legit. Because most people, especially in 2025, just delay life and then do nothing. They just delay life and do nothing. I mean, what if I try to sell you these products back in 2017? Would you have bought into it, or would you just been like, "Oh no, no, I'll just I'll look into it." And back in a time where none of this concept was popular on the internet, right? So, lesson of the day here is it's okay for me to need money so I can FOMO you and to help you better your life, but unfortunately, I don't need the money. And also, people who are in desperate situations, like kind of like myself, um, it's you probably will do a lot more with your life when you're in that position. And again, I'm not recommending that everybody be in that position because sometimes being in a flight or a fight response too long will really psychologically it'll stress you out, right? But it's not a bad thing to be FOMO'd into doing what it is that you need to do, and it's not a bad thing to be in a desperate position either, right? Because again, if at that time I had made over $100,000 as a nurse in 2017, there was no way you would have convinced me to pay $2,000 for an educational package to learn about this stuff, right? It's when I was desperate and someone was telling me like, "Hey, there's a solution to your thing." I'm gonna find the money. I'm gonna find a way to find the money. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So this is Korean Atlanta mentorship. Just another video about things I need to work on because I don't FOMO people and I really need to learn how to do it. All right. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll speak next time.